So let's get down to the actual loading of the feeder. Now the thing to put on first is your hook bait. Now for me today I'm keeping things very simple and will do on 90% of my method feeder fishing or pellet feeder fishing, and stick to dead red maggots, 4mm or 6mm pellets. There are times when you're on big open water fishing for big carp that I'll start to put on like the little mini 6mm boilies, but that's as simple as I want to keep my method feeder fishing hook bait selection. I don't want to be swapping between hundreds of different ones thinking that the next bait might get me a bite. I just want to have the confidence that what I'm doing is working. There are days when pellets are better and there are days when the maggots are better, and natural hook bait such as a maggot is sometimes a bait that gets sucked up by mistake with the fish that are just feeding on micros. A large standout hook bait can actually be ignored at times. Sometimes you just want something that sort of catches the fish almost by mistake and just gets sucked up with the free offerings. But in this instance I've been catching on 6mm pellets today, so I'm just going to slip that into the band like so. A great alternative for the hook is of course double maggot. So I'm going to show you an almost foolproof way to sort your pellets out or your bait out for this style of fishing. Now for me, I like to fish pellets. Ground bait is a great attractor of fish, but I like to keep it to a minimum in my peg, just because although it attracts the fish into your peg, it spreads very easily because of the really fine particles and can actually make it quite difficult to catch fish. So I'm going to stick with micro pellets with ground bait as a small amount of binder just to hold it together. So what we have here, although on the face of things these might look the same, there's actually two different pellets here. One is a skretting, one is a coppins. Now, although they're both micro pellets, they're slightly different. A skretting's pellet will break down far faster and be softer than a coppins pellet. A coppins pellet will stay a lot more whole for a longer period of time and is quite sticky. So what I like to do is combine the two 50-50, just to combine those two properties together. So there we've got two equal amounts. So all we're going to do is put both of them into a tub, mix them together to make sure they're evenly distributed, and then we're going to add some water. Now all we need to do with the water is just cover the pellets, so they're just in enough water. That's slightly too much, I'm going to take a bit out. That's what we're looking for there, and then that's done. And all we're going to do is wait for about 20 minutes to half an hour, and that will soak up the water and be ready for you to start fishing. So at that stage, all you need to do is empty them out into a container and add a small amount of ground bait, and the ground bait just finally binds it together and makes it far easier for you to fish. And this is the end product, which as you can see, what you're looking for is something that with one squeeze will hold together like that. And it's worth noting that the new EVA style bait cases that Middy are producing are perfect for this. Not only is it a great bowl to fish out of, but for when you're not fishing, it's completely waterproof, which not only keeps them dry if it's raining, but also locks the moisture in so those pellets aren't drying out during the meantime. And that makes sure that your preparation that you've done in the morning will continue out throughout the day and you won't have to do any more work with your bait. Now again, a lot of time and effort has been put into method feeder fishing and its design to make loading it as easy as possible for you. And the Middy mould is one of the best. You've got a central bit at the bottom, which once it's loaded, you press the bottom button, pushes the whole lot out, and that just releases ready for you to cast. So let's go through the process. You put a small amount in at the bottom. You lay the hook bait on the top, making sure the line sits into this slot here. It can be either end. Then you cover that up, pack it in. And then that feeder gets pressed, making sure the line is coming through at a loop from the same end, and you press down hard. And you can pretty much press as hard as you want on this one, because that button at the bottom is always going to release it perfectly for you. And a quick press and away you go. Perfectly loaded, ready to cast out, and that's not going to fall off. Now you can double load it. You can again fill that mould up again now and press that feeder to get double the amount of bait in. But today that's been about the right amount of bait for me, so I'm not going to do that. And the last thing I've been doing today is actually put in just a small amount of the adrenaline plasma, the aniseed, on the top, just for added attraction. And that's actually really worked for me today. I actually went without a bite for about 20 minutes, half hour, put that on, and it went round within seconds, almost to my own surprise. So check that out. It's definitely a worthy addition to your method feeder fishing. And then it's just a case of casting out to the spot. Loading the pellet feeder is simpler still, but we're still going to adopt a similar principle that we want the hook bait at the front end of the feeder. So the first thing we're going to do is get some bait, pack it in so it's level with the ridge, and then the hook bait gets placed in there and a small amount placed on top, pressed in with the thumb, and that's ready to cast out. And once that hits the bottom, the pellets will start to absorb some water, and that pressure as they expand will push the bait out into this area here, perfect and ready to hook a carp.